Hi everybody, this is Gijs again with another review and I hope you are doing well. This time it is again a Tentipi, the Tentipi Olivin 2CP. Yes, a poly cotton olivin. So if you want to know if this one is as good as its bigger brothers and sisters, watch the review. Welcome to the review of the Tentipi Olivin 2CP. And as usual with my reviews, there is a little background story to this one. It was exactly a year ago that I was visiting the Scandinavian Outdoor Awards in Austria, in Kleinwalsertal. That's where we go basically twice a year to test Scandinavian products. And the Olivin 2CP was there also for us to judge. After this meeting, we went on to ISPO, the big trade show that there is every year in spring, summer in Munich. And of course for this year it is cancelled due to Corona. And the Tentipi was there on show as well. And after the ISPO, Tentipi asked me if I wanted to do a review on the 2CP. And of course I agreed, so I took it home. After the trade show, me and my family went on a long holiday in Sweden. And that's where we use the Tentipi a lot. But before I tell you all my experiences, if this is the first time that you tuned into my channel, then you might not know that I am a 100% independent reviewer. I'm not being paid by manufacturers to make my reviews, and I don't have any affiliate deals or advertisements on my website. So if you like my way of independent reviewing, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't forget to hit the alarm bell so you know when I uploaded a new video. And also please like my Facebook page and follow me on Instagram. And if you do, many thanks in advance. Now let's continue with the 2CP. The package, as you can see, it is a little bit bigger and of course more heavy than the lightweight version, which is made out of artificial fabrics. This one, it is made out of a cotton polyester mix. As said before, it is bigger than the other olivins and it's more heavy. It weighs almost 5.8 kilograms and the package is 28 centimeters in diameter and it is 49 centimeters high. Now let's open the pouch and see what's inside. One of the things that I do like about the Tentipi, the polycotton Tentipis, is the stuff bag, because it is a very sturdy one, and since it has got these compression straps, it's a bit bigger and that makes it easier to put your tent and all the stuff in the bag, and when you compress it, it gets a little bit smaller. Now, first let me have a look what's in here. Where are they? First, I've got the pegs, and inside the pegs there is this little box, which is basically the pitching instruction. Let me put it over there. The pegs. Then we've got, of course, the floor. In this case, you might see it's not made out of the canvas. One pole, and of course, the tent. And with all the ingredients in front of me, I can pitch the tent. And now let's continue with the manual, because this is really one funny thing. There is a USB stick, so you can check whatever you need to check before you leave home. If you want to pitch it for the first time, the manual is on there as well. And there is this one. And maybe I should move a little bit closer, because this is the manual. And it is a very clear one. It goes basically from, well, like I started, with all the things that are in the package, to how you pitch the tent, how it should look when you're done. The thing is that Tentipi only makes one sort of scroll manual like this. So all the tents are basically the same, but pitching of a Tentipi is pretty easy. It is the same for almost every tent, except for the smaller olivins. So I've done this a few times, so I will roll it back and I will demonstrate how I pitch a Tentipi. The thing with the Tentipi tent is that, and I will have to move to you again, is that it comes with this piece of fabric. In the middle there is a hole, and in this hole you will put a peg. And because of all the lines, these are the directions to the pegs. That's one thing. Now we've got the other thing, which is a ribbon. And the ribbon has got a loop on one side. This is again for the peg. So if you've got this one and you've got that one and the peg goes in the middle, and then the ribbon on the other end, not totally on the end, but here, there is a marking. And this marking is basically the distance from the center, which is the pole, to the peg. And if you follow all the lines, you got all the pegs on the right spot, so you can pitch the tent quite easily. Like so, I've got the pegs laid out in a perfect circle. And now let's leave the one in the middle for the moment, because I need to use my shoes to get the pegs a bit further into the ground. One of the things that you should be aware of with the pegs, and I'll demonstrate it. Let me get one peg. Why am I doing this with my shoes? Well, if you take a look at the peg itself, you see they are made out of aluminium. They're very, very good in grass and muddy terrain. They're not really for rocks. But on the top there is this head, and this is the place where the pegs are a little bit more narrow. And I've noticed when I use the rear of my axe or a hammer that it's quite easy to damage the pegs themselves. So that's why I use my shoes. What I do like is that there is this string attached to them, which makes it very easy if you want to, well, I'll show you this later, pitch the tent. But it's also if you want to break up camp again, this is very convenient because you can pull out the peg just by pulling onto the cord. Now let's continue with the pegs. That one in there and the last one. Okay, now I can take this one out of the ground. You see, pulling the cord is quite easy. Lay that onto the side, and now I can take the tent, and all I have to do is now find sort of the spot where I want the tent to be and take it out. And you know, when you do a careful way of packing, pitching is way easier. Now, and this is what I mean. Now the entrance, and now I've got these loops with those compression ropes or ropes onto them, and it's just a matter of getting them around the peg. And now this is easy because of the string, and I go all the way around, stringy. With this attached, now all I have to do is open the tent. And I will have to get the pole. And the good thing about this pole is it's aluminium. And it is in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. And there's of course a piece of elastic band holding it together. It's a very sturdy pole. And this one goes into the top of the tent. On the top there is a little connector, cup, and now I can pitch it like so. Now, the tent like this doesn't look very smart, of course, because I have to tension tensioners, but first I will have to put in the floor, because if I do it like this, it's way easier. Of course, you can tie it down now and you can camp in the Tentipi without the floor. And if it's a little bit colder, chilly, Tentipi even says that you can make a open fire on the ground, or of course in a basket, so you protect the grass or wherever you are. But you can use the tent with a very small campfire inside. Don't do it with the floor in it, of course. Now, let's continue with the floor itself. The floor, it's not made out of the polycotton material. It's made out of a synthetic fiber. And with the flooring, it's very important. I don't know if you can hear the birds, but they're circling around where I am at the moment. There is a black side and there is a green side, and what I like to look at is the green side. Well, the pitiful thing is that the green side goes onto the bottom, because otherwise you will not be able to use the tensioners, because they will be upside down. What is also important about the floor is that you might see, let's get this toggle out of the way, that there is this piece of Velcro. And with this piece of Velcro, it's a sort of giant V shape in the floor itself. And you can open it. So you can put a stove in the tent without damaging basically the floor. It is also very helpful if you want to get the floor in, basically like I'm doing now, when you don't have to lift the pole itself. It's not that usable for this tent because it's a lightweight tent, but if you have one of the bigger tent tipis, lifting the pole and the whole fabric to get the floor underneath it is quite difficult. Now let me get the tent in there, and now I have to find the correct spot, and that's a little bit of a pity, because Tentipi is usually full of details, but there is not a, basically like you see on a lot of lightweight tents, a color-coded marking that tells me that this one should basically go there. I've discovered that this is the most easy way. Now, when you do this correctly, you need to get the, where should I get the door out of the way? I need to, where is my fabric? There. Get the tensioner from the ground, from the floor, through this piece of Velcro opening. And when I'm done with this, and it's in the strap is pointing upwards, I can do it around this toggle. Now with the ring around the peg and the toggle here and putting the other ring around, this is not the most consumer friendly way of dealing with attaching a floor to a tent. Especially not when it's cold. Now it's not that cold. What I also noticed that if you take it away again, you see the tent won't fall when you take one, and doing it just like this, holding it like this, there is a little bit less tension on the fabric, and this is way easier. Now, again, the rope, very handy. Now all I have to do is to do the whole tent, but now I'll have to crawl inside and get all the loops through the Velcro holes, which is, to be honest, a pain in the bum. Now, when you're done with 4 corners, you need to do the 5th one, and then the pole basically is in the way. So what I do is I always lift the pole and get it on the, basically where the triangle is. This is the spot where the center pole should be. And when you're doing this, don't forget to place the cup for the ventilator cap in top of the Tentipi, and I'll show you how this works. But if you don't do this now and you put tension on the fabric, it won't work. Now let me get the whole fabric in place. Now on to the last one, which is again easy. Of course there is a different way of doing this. You can also do it from the outside. Just pull the straps from the outside. Well, when it's raining, I always like to do it from the inside. And up, okay, so that one is in place, loop, peg. Now this doesn't look really smart. So the only thing that I have to do now is get the tension on the main fabric and onto the floor to get everything nice. Let's start with this one. And don't pull them all in one go, because then you will end up with a very tight and maybe wrong tent, because you're pulling it to one side basically. Let me roll the door so you have a better look on the inside of the tent. And of course an elastic band with a toggle to fixate it. But there is one critically thing missing on the Tentipi. The way how I pitch it, maybe it's called the Dutch way, maybe it's called the bad weather rainy day way, because, and I'll have to explain this a bit, what I do, and I've been discussing this with the Dutch distributor of Tentipi, the way how I pull the floor through the Velcro openings is done that I can get the side walls or the bottom of the Tentipi not going into this direction, which would be the winter position, because then the snow, they're basically sort of extended snow skirts. The snow will fall off the Tentipi. But if you do this under, well, basically 3-season circumstances, not freezing temperatures, but mildly damp or wet, the thing is that this piece of fabric cloth is on the floor, on the grass, in the mud, and it gets really, really dirty. And I've noticed that when the tent is pitched for a couple of days on one spot, this really gets soaked, and that's something that I don't want. It has also got a other strange thing, and that's the fact that if you picture that like this, the floor does not extend the whole way to the outer circle of the tent. There's about a gap about this big around the whole tent, which is not a design floor, but basically you would expect maybe a winter floor and a summer 3-season flooring. Now, when I pitch it like this, I can tie the snow skirts, if that's how you like to call it, to the inside. And in this way, the water will run off the fabric, it will fall here. Yes, it will splash onto the fabric itself, but it will not be wet the whole time. And in this way, you get a perfect connection between the floor and the tent itself. So this is the way how it should be done in 3-season circumstances. What I'm lacking in the total package is the pegs for these loops, so I can fixate the snow skirts into the ground. Yes, I can use these, and that's what I did in the beginning, but to be honest, this part, if you touch it with your knees, with your hands, with your head, if you're in the tent, it is really painful, especially because the pegs, they go under the floor for a little bit. So I came up with some different pegs, and they are from an old tent. And now let's do some magic. These are the pegs. They are very short aluminium ones with a rounded head, and if you put them into the ground, you will never ever feel it. So this is what I do now, and then I'll talk about the tent fabric. So, well, you see that this is not a totally consumer-friendly way of putting a floor into a tent, and I've seen tents with a better design of Tentipi. Now let's continue with the materials. The tent itself, it is made out of a mixture between polyester and cotton, and it is called by Tentipi Cot Pol Max C. It is 285 grams per square meter, and that means it is quite a heavy quality. The fabric, because it's a mixture between cotton and polyester, it is strong, it is sort of lightweight-ish, but it is also breathable because of the cotton part in the fabric, and because it is breathable, you got a very nice atmosphere into polyester cotton tents in general. I've discovered in the past, or experienced in the past, that with Tentipi tents from this material, the climate is really very, very lovely to be in for a longer time. With bad weather, the material on the outside, it is important that it has a DWR coating, and DWR coating means it is durable water repellent. So when a drop of water hits the fabric, it will flow off immediately. This DWR coating, Tentipi does not state what kind of material it is, so I don't know if it is very sustainable. It should be, in my opinion. What I do notice in the past, and with this one as well, that the durable water repellent coating is very durable, because, well, it is still 100% intact after a year of use. On the outside, the fabric has also a treatment to resist UV radiation, so it doesn't deteriorate in due time when the tent is in a lot of sunny conditions. So that is good as well. Now, the floor, which is also quite important because the floor is in the tent to keep my stuff dry, and because of the connection between the outer tent in this way of pitching the tent and the floor, you don't get any condensation from the grass basically into your tent. But we've discovered that the floor that should be 100% waterproof is not 100% waterproof in reality.
One thing that is pretty disturbing is when I woke up this morning is that, well, I was cold this night, and it's got to do with the rain and cold weather, but also with the fact that underneath my mattress I've got quite a buildup of moisture on the inside of the floor, which is pretty funny. And then I thought this might be the body heat that I'm generating and condensation, but then here's no body heat, and look, wet as well. So I think that the floor of the Tentipi is not 100% waterproof, which is a bit of a bummer.
Now let's have a look at the other details of this tent. I already talked about the snow skirts, which are tucked away underneath the tent. Now, one of the big differences between the 2CP and the other Tentipis is the fact that the fabric, the polycotton fabric, goes directly down to the ground. And I already explained that this gets wet. With other polycotton Tentipi tents, this last edge is made out of a fabric which is basically a synthetic material. And this is a really big pro, because this synthetic material doesn't get wet when you leave it for a longer time outside when it touches the wet grass. And it also means that the moisture from the grass will never crawl up into the tent fabric. And it also stays more clean easily. So in that respect, I think that basically the 2CP should have had this synthetic skirt or edge around the tent as well. So that's one of the things that I really don't like. I miss it. What I don't miss is the way how the guidelines are constructed, because in this respect the 2CP is full of small little details. Now it's got guidelines, enough of them, and they have got this nice elastic band to tie the guideline together. So when you don't use it, you can tie it down so it doesn't dangle in the night when the wind is blowing a little bit. And to be honest, we hardly ever use them, because the Tentipi, especially this small one, Tentipis are very wind resistant, but especially this small one, well, wind doesn't get any grip on it. So it's been most of the time into H guideline garage, if you can call it this way. One little trick, if you want to tie this one back into its garage, never start with doing it here, because then it will tangle up here. Always start here, because then the curl goes out of the guideline and it packs way easier. And when you do it like this, you can tie it down very easily, and when you take it out again, it will be untangled immediately. So that is really, really nice. Now let's dive into the chimney, because it is a Tentipi, so you can put a stove in here. I already said something about an open fire when you don't use the floor, but there is this ventilation cap. And I've showed you already that from the inside you can open the ventilation openings, which is quite nice. But in here there is a very big opening for a stove for the chimney. You might see a little bit of color difference between this fabric and this fabric, and that's because of the original Tentipi that I brought from Munich had a other ventilation cap. It was a way smaller opening. Now it is, I think, about 12-13 centimeters, and I can fit a really large white stove in it. That also means that you may be putting a bigger stove than you actually should do in this tent, but more on the stove later. There's a little piece of Velcro here, so when you close it and you tie it down, you don't get any rain in here. What is also quite nice is that on top there is this loop, and this loop is has a double function. In the first place, when you pack the tent again, you use a peg and you put it into the ground, and you can fold the tent very nicely back into its pouch again. But if you're into a forest and you don't want to use the pole, the center pole, you can also use this one to tie it to a branch. And then you've got a little bit more space on the inside if you are with a few people more. And now I'm talking about interior space. Let's go into the tent. So, welcome to my little tent now. I put in some mattresses so you have an idea on how big things really are. The tent, it has got a diameter of 280 centimeters, and if you sleep with two persons, well, there's one mattress on that side and there's one mattress on that side. You can fit it snugger to the pole, and then you can put two smaller mattresses next to it. So if you are a family of four with two little kids, it will fit as well. Like this, it's the more practical way of dealing with the space if you are just with two or maybe with a dog. There is still space for some luggage, a couple of duffels, some Raco boxes, bike panniers, motorcycle panniers, that kind of stuff. Maybe backpacks, but to be honest, a tent of 5.8 kilograms. I'm not sure if I want to use this one for backpacking, if it's just for two people. The space in height, it is 170 centimeters high in total, but the usable space is to the ventilation opening, the mesh on blocks it basically, and that's about 140 centimeters high. So with my length of almost 1 meter and 70 centimeters, I can sort of dress, undress, standing, semi, upright, crouched. If you're bigger, then this is a quite small tent. And the mattress that I put in here, they are really full-size large mattresses, so there is enough space for big high mattresses as well. And the higher they get, of course, the more you will need to get to the pole, because otherwise you will be ending up into the tent fabric itself. The tent is basically too low, or the walls are too low, to use this with two small stretchers, if you might be thinking of this as well. One of the things I really like about the Tentipi is the way how the ventilation works, and I already showed it on the outside already, but you know, these three strings, they are so very, very consumer friendly. It's one of the best inventions I've ever done in a tent. By pulling it, I can open it, and well, the air from the tent will be pulled out basically. And especially if I open the ventilation on the rear, I really get this low, high air draft, and it really ventilates very, very well. What I also do like is that around the pole there is a mesh that you can tie down very, very neatly, so that mosquitoes will never get in from the ventilator cap. One thing that I did not talk about yet is the door. The door is one big opening. Of course, you have to be not too big to enter it very easily. It's also got a very big part of mesh. So when it's warmer weather and you are in mosquito infested Scandinavia, like I am quite a lot, then you can, well, basically close the mesh there, and you can open, or you can close the door but open the second door, and you have a very big part of mesh, so mosquitoes cannot come in, but you can still look outside to nature. I mentioned it already a couple of times, the stove. Tentipi claims you can use this one with an open fire, and you can use it with a micro stove. Now, first I will get the stove in there, and then we'll continue talking about the CP2 in combination with the stove. Now, what you might see is that with the stove in place, and this is the medium version, it takes quite some space inside the tent. And this one, I've been trying this in my backyard, because I've got the security of a very big hose over there. And I've been heating up the stove till it was really, really hot. And then this medium stove inside such a small tent, it really gets hot very quickly, which is good when it's cold. But normally when we're in Europe, I think only in wintertime it gets that cold that you need a stove this big. What happens is not only that the pipe gets really hot, but there is of course the point where the chimney passes the ventilator cap. Now, of course, I use a double wall chimney, and this is the solid one from Winnerwell, and this one is really a nice sheltered double walled protector because it's got a cap on the top, so it is also, when it rains, a perfect fit. The rain does not get into the tent itself. There's also a other one, a more simple one, which has basically got a metal mesh around it. That one works fine too, except for the fact that there is more opening between the tent fabric and the stove chimney, so that rain can fall in. Well, most of the time rain falls on the stove itself, and it will dry very fast, and when you've got some next to it, because the tent is going to be so hot in a very quick time, it does not really matter. But I've been doing some measurements with a infrared thermometer, and I've measured really high temperatures in the stove itself. Around 400 degrees is possible, about 200 something here, but also on the point where the chimney passes the tent fabric, I've noticed that the distance, which is about a meter, is basically too short if you want to get the heat from the fire to do some cooking as well. The temperatures I've got up there were on the pipe itself, on the inner pipe, about 90 degrees when it was really red glowing, and on the outer side of the pipe itself, it was ranging between the 30 and way higher. Because there are some spots where the chimney itself is connected to the outer chimney, to say it in this way. And on those spots you've got this contact point where the heat is basically transmitted directly. So this is really a hot spot, and when you put it up you should be careful that this does not get into the fabric. What I've noticed is that when I de-pitched it, or when I broke the tent down again, I did not see any damage on the tent fabric, but I don't know how long this will work because, well, you got really extensive heat from this stove. Now, Tentipi says that the tent can be used with a micro stove. Now, they don't state what, in their opinion, a micro stove is. They don't talk about watts or about BTUs or whatever value stoves do transmit, how much power they transmit, so how hot they actually get. And that's something I'm not sure if they tried it themselves. When it's really cold, yes, a stove is very nice, and we've been using this one with colder temperatures, but not heating it to the full power, just to get some nice comfortable warmth from the stove, to keep the climate inside the tent very nice. If you burn too much wood in this, it will be a sauna tent, which can be nice as well, but I don't think that's really the purpose. So if you use a stove inside the Tentipi 2CP, really take care with what you do and measure the temperature so you know what heat is going to be touching the fabric. And now I'm saying tent fabric, there's one thing that I don't like about this one, and why I think it's not that well thought through in the end, because the ropes to use with the ventilator cap, they are next to the pole, and this gets really hot. And with all the other Tentipis, you can take the ropes off from the cup down here, and you have a place on the tent fabric, so you can tie it basically to one side. And that toggle is missing on the 2CP. So in that respect, I'm not sure if Tentipi really thought about this, using a stove, in practical reasons, in a CP2. Now, with the stove, the floor, the tent, I think I've covered everything except for one thing. Yes, it's beautiful weather now. Even the sun is coming out and it is dry. But what if it rains? That's one of the big disadvantages of a Tipi construction, because when you open it, there's no roof above you. And a lot of other tents do have this. And when you've got no roof, you open it, it rains, well, your tent will get wet on the inside. Well, then you can take the floor out, of course, for a part, and then the grass will get wet, but still the problem remains. But of course, Tentipi has a solution for this as well. And this is it, just a little canopy above the entrance. It comes complete with a pack sack, a couple of packs, and of course the guidelines. The only thing that it doesn't have are the poles. So you need to buy them separately, or you just use a couple of trekking poles, because that works fine as well. And this one really keeps the entrance sheltered from rain as long as it's not blowing too fiercely. And what is also very nice is that I can sit under it in my little chair. And this is what I mean. This is how I like Tipi camping. On to my verdict. How do I rate the Tentipi Olivin 2CP? Well, I'm a really great lover of the Tipi concept in general. And normally I really like Tentipis too. And well, you might have noticed it already during the review. I am a little bit ambiguous about this one. I like the fact that it is small, that it is waterproof, and that it is very wind resistant. The space for 2 adults, and even maybe 2 adults with 2 small kids, or a couple with a dog, I think it is fine. If you're not too big, you've got some sort of head clearance so you can dress and undress with sort of ease. But I miss a lot in this little tent. If I compare it to the bigger brothers and sisters of Tentipi, what I really do miss is the fact that the tent itself, the fabric, does not have an edge that is made out of synthetic materials like all the other ones do have. This fabric gets really wet when you put it for a longer period in wet grass, and it gets very dirty. If you've got this synthetic material, I've never noticed this. It doesn't get wet, it's easy to clean if it gets dirty, so I think that is better, and I think this one should have that edge as well. What I don't like as well is the way, or the hassle that it takes to get the floor into the tent. It's just too fiddly. And what is really a big bummer is that the floor itself has proven to be not 100% waterproof. And there are some more small details that I don't like. For example, the way that when I put a stove into the tent, which is allowed by Tentipi and sort of promoted as well, is that I cannot take the strings that operate the ventilator cap, that I cannot tie it down to the side as in the bigger tents is possible. And then the strings get really, really hot. So this is something that you really have to think about when you use it with a stove. I've been using it throughout the whole year, in every season. And the best thing about any polycotton tent is the climate on the inside. You never got this condensation that you have in fully synthetic tents. So in that respect, this one is really a nice tent to stay in for a longer period of time. When it's warm, I think when it's warm outside, this tent is cooler than most other tents, and when it is cold outside, it is easy to get some warmth in the tent. And also because of the thick fabric, even with 2 people in it, the body warmth, it generates enough heat to really get some warmth into the tent itself. Now, if you like camping with a stove, I'm not too sure about this, because Tentipi says that you can do a micro stove in this tent, and this is the smallest one that I could find. And Winnerwell, it will make a smaller one, but this is what I have. And I noticed that in the top part of the tent, it really gets hot and the fabric gets warm or hot. And I'm not sure if this is really the way to go. So if you want to use a stove in a tent, think again. And if you do it, really check your temperatures the whole time. That leads me to the price. The Tentipi Olivin 2CP retails for 660 euros. And to be honest, I still think that price is sort of okay. although I have some negative points. And of course the floor should be waterproof for that amount of money. And to my opinion, if Tentipi made all the changes, all the negative points that I think are in this tent, and the price would be about 100 euros more, I think this tent would be really way better, and it will still sell. Because the other olivins, the synthetics ones, they are, I believe, about 1100 euros. So there is a very big gap. The canopy, it retails for 110 euros. And I think if you buy a Tipi, then you always have to buy a canopy with it, because it makes the use of the tent, well, better. It makes the whole tent better. So in total, you're spending about 770 euros. Now, the points. Because of all the negative points, but still I've got a weakness for tipis, I rate the Tentipi Olivin 2 CP at 7 out of 10 points total. I hope you liked the review, and if you did, please give it a like and leave a comment below. And if there's anything you ask, also the comment section, and I'll be more than happy to answer all your questions, remarks, whatever. If you like what I do, please, 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 please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to hit the alarm bell so you know when I uploaded a new video. I am a 100% independent reviewer, and I'm not earning any money with the reviews that I make. I don't have any advertisements on my website, and I don't have any affiliate deals, so I could really do with your support if you like what I do. And if you subscribe, please also follow me on Instagram and like my Facebook page. And if you do, many, 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 many thanks in advance. Enjoy the outdoors and stay safe. Ciao, ciao! The first fire you saw was actually in my backyard, and it was a real fire. The other ones were not real. I did a shooting in a nature reserve, and since it is a very dry period in the Netherlands, I did not risk anything. So how did I do this? Well, of course, with my iPhone.